So Jordan Brand's been hitting us with some pretty limited releases this year. Some pairs which would come to mind, of course, you got the Bread 85s, which didn't even see a sneakers app drop. Plus, on top of that, we're limited to just select neighborhood locations across the country. Some other pairs which will come to mind right off the dome, of course, you got Flu Game 12s, you got the Cool Grey 9s, you got to include the Ferrari 14s, as well as those Steel 10s which just dropped. All of these pairs which we did see a sneakers app drop for all of these, but they were all released in limited quantities. Now, on the other side of things, you got sneakers which I like to refer to as kind of like the breadwinners for Jordan Brand. These are all of the pairs which they dropped in abundance. Plenty of stock to go around for everybody. And while some people would call these bricks, I would say these are all solid releases. A lot of heat included right here. And while there's so much complaining going on nowadays in sneakers, like, let's just go ahead and take a moment to like give Jordan Brand their props and thank them for releasing these pairs in abundance. No headaches involved. So we're gonna jump into a list of all of these pairs. Stay tuned to see if any of your favorites made the list. And before we jump into it, some quick honorable mentions, some pairs which did drop with a decent amount of stock, but just not enough to kind of crack that 100,000 pairs as far as their sneakers app releases. Some of these pairs may shock you, which would include the UNC Jordan 1s. You also got the Aqua 8s, as well as the Jordan 5s, which they did drop a decent amount of pairs, but we didn't actually see huge numbers which cracked the 100,000 like some of these pairs here on the list. Which, to kick things off, we got the Jordan 1 Shattered Backboards, which will actually be Jordan Brand's premier retro release of this weekend. First time we're seeing this cult classic drop in since it originally debuted 10 years ago. Now, when you talk about this sneaker, Jordan Brand, they've been doing a lot of campaigning for this drop, including several visual campaigns. You had the big early release event, which took place in Paris. On top of that, they got this whole kind of like musical documentary called Too Easy, which kind of has a theme centered around this release. And as you guys see here with the stock numbers cracking over 100,000 pairs, it seems like there will be no headaches involved for this release right here. Now, on top of this pair, which will be dropping this weekend, we also got the first retro Jordan release of the year in the Black Cat 3s. Now, this sneaker, just like when it originally dropped back in 2007, there wasn't like a huge demand. It wasn't like selling like crazy right out the gate. With a whole bunch of pairs of these, we did actually see these joints like sit, you know, at retailers and everything like that, but it seems like months down the line, this is one that a lot of people are trying to double back on. It looks like these are pretty much sold out now all across the board. And just like kind of things went back in 2007, we're starting to kind of slowly see some of these resale prices via the secondary market start to slowly creep up on with this pair right here. Now, as far as other sneakers, of course, we got one that dropped a lot more recently here in the French Blue Jordan 12s, which we touched on the history about this shoe and everything like that. When you talk about the stock numbers, according to Eldon Monitors, who reports the back end numbers loaded up to the sneakers app, they reported just around 100,000 pairs of these right here. So Jordan Brand, they definitely blessed us with what I would call heat. You know, this is a solid pair right here. Everybody loves their Jordan 12s, and how can you go wrong with a pair like this, which Jordan Brand did these ones right, dropping enough pairs to go around. The question is, with all of these pairs here on the list, are you able to snag these for retail, or are you able to hold off, maybe get them on sale, possibly get these joints under retail via the secondary market? Now, as far as other pairs, which this one, they were saying was going to be a hot release for the summer. While this sneaker didn't exactly crack the 100,000 mark via the sneakers app, we did see roughly around 60,000 pairs of these hit the app. And unlike the Black Cat 3s, which of course a lot of people would draw comparisons to, it seems like the demand for this one wasn't as high. It looks like these are easily available pretty much at all of your retailers. They even got just about a full size run of these still available via Nike. So this is one that if you kind of held off on, you definitely made a great decision. But how can you go wrong with an all white pair of Jordan 3s, which we did see roughly around 60,000 pairs of these hit the app. Now, as far as pairs which are going to be cracking that 100,000 pairs for the sneakers app, you got the Rare Air 3s, which they dropped a whole bunch of these joints right here, a solid pair of Jordan 3s. The Rare Air series, I would say, is one of the more underrated that we've seen drop this year. And as far as the Rare Air theme, of course, you got the mix match Nike Air featured on the back of this one right here. And again, continuing things with the Rare Air series, you got the Jordan 4 Rare Air, which although they did drop a whole bunch of pairs of these pretty much everywhere, we did see, I think, roughly crack over 100,000 pairs via the sneakers app. Don't quote me on that. I couldn't find the exact numbers for this one, but we know they definitely dropped a whole bunch of pairs of these joints right here, which even with the whole gimmick of the white versus gold lettering, it seems like that really wasn't enough to make this one like go crazy. But then again, anytime Jordan Brand drops a stock, you know, this high, an abundance of over 100,000 pairs, more so than likely, you're gonna see these joints sit, which it doesn't take the fact away from any of these shoes. I feel like these are all solid releases right here. And when you talk about the Rare Air series, what release would be your favorite? It seems like Rare Air had nothing rare about it, and they dropped a whole bunch of pairs of all of these. I would say I give the slight advantage to these 3s over these 4s, but you guys know everybody loves a good pair of Jordan 4s, and I feel like these Rare Air ones were solid. And when we talk about Jordan 4s, the sneaker, which don't quote me on this one, but was being reported by many outlets as the stock number, like this Jordan, which had the highest stock here in 2025. When we talk about 4s, probably the greatest of all time, arguably one of the best Jordan releases of all time, white cement 4s, which, can you guys remember when this one dropped? Of course, the early reports were that there was going to be a whole bunch of stock, you know, to go around. But even with those early reports, people were still feeling like these were going to be an instant sellout. Like, there's no way a sneaker this iconic could sit around like this. But then, of course, once we saw the official release via the Sneakers app, as well as all of the other outlets, them joints were low-key sitting, bro. Like, that day of the release, people were shocked to see that these weren't an instant sellout. But anytime Jordan Brand drops this many pairs, I guess even with the iconic classic status of a sneaker like this, it's still not going to sell out. So that's just how it is when you talk about stock numbers this year. Some pairs were a lot more limited, some released in a lot more of an abundance, such as these upcoming Shattered Backboard 1. So with all of the history, the storytelling, the cult classic status of this, anytime Jordan Brand drops a sneaker with this many pairs to go around, and it's not a collaboration, you already know they're gonna sit. So no headaches involved for this upcoming drop. Let me know, guys, does this actually make you lose some of the appeal, the lust for this upcoming drop? There was some early reports that as far as the quality, these don't stack up to the original release, but I would say don't let it take away the love that you have for this shoe. If you guys have been waiting for these to drop finally, once again, you know, go ahead and pick them up. If you're rocking with them, grab them. You know, if you're one of these people that collect every single release, I would say probably hold off a little bit, as more so than likely, you know, you will be able to get these joints on sale or discounted or under retail or something like that. So as far as Jordan Brand drop, some pairs a lot more limited, some pairs drop with a lot more stock. So let's take a moment to stop complaining so much, you know, with Jordan Brand, and let's just give them props, thank them, you know, for dropping some of these pairs in abundance. So let me know if any of your favorite pairs made the list, and if you guys made it through the end, let me know by dropping a salute down below. So until next time, stay safe, stay blessed. JATV, I'm out. Love.
Stay safe, stay blessed. Stay safe, stay blessed.
Stay safe, stay blessed. JA.
Stay safe, stay blessed. Stay safe.